I'll kick this off with a video of the finished product. Throughout this process, I screwed up a couple of times, and I share that throughout the video. I also give you some of the things that I learned along the way, cost savings, etc. I hope this helps some of you guys out there looking to do this on your own. I know YouTube's helped me, and I'd like to pay it back. So this is the finished product. We're actually, unfortunately, moving out, but here's some stills of what the basement looked like before we did any work to it. There's a shower there, a nasty cabinet that was in there. There used to be a boiler. We tore out all this carpet that was glued down, which caused serious problems. Ripped out all the unused stuff that was in the ceiling, wires, pipes, etc., and then painted them black before we started working on the floors and walls and electrical. All right, folks, as you can see, grinding the floors here. The lessons I've learned while grinding, one are, I have an old slab here, and as you can see, there's some pitting or some deep spots that weren't completely flat. I'm gonna grind on these and get them pretty good. Some of them are real deep, like this one here. I'll have to take just an angle grinder and grind that. Otherwise, I'm gonna go through a bunch of teeth on that machine. So far, this is, I don't know how many square feet. I think it's probably in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 square feet. And I have spent about $400 on blades for that machine to grind this down. Now I'm grinding down quite a bit because there's a lot of unevenness. So it's I guess just to be taken into advisement if you're going to consider doing something this yourselves. These are the final steps. I just need to grind around the edges to clean off where the grinder, the big grinder didn't go. And then also get any dips where I didn't feel like grinding forever to get down to. I need to get those again, finish touching up of those. And then I'll just work my way around the room, doing all the edges, all the way to the end. And then I'm gonna wash everything down a couple of times, vacuum it up, and get it ready for acid wash. After that, seal. Then we'll paint the walls, and this project will be almost wrapped up. I had, when I sprayed, the air conditioning was on, so it created moisture and the paint ran there, but it's really the only screw up with the paint so far. Things turned out real good. Got all my handles taped off, so it looks nice and clean. Black paint. Excited to get everything painted, and then electricity done, floors sealed, and then we'll start bringing stuff into here again. So just once again, still in transition here. This is what it did look like in a basement where they had used glue to glue down indoor outdoor carpet. So can't get that off really other than with chemical or with grinding it. I'm not sure how good you'd even get it with the chemical. I'd still think you'd have to grind it a little, so I just decided to grind it. And here we go. After we get this side done, we're gonna take everything out of this side, move it over there, and then paint the ceiling, do the floors, paint the walls, redo the electricity, and redistribute some of these storage racks. Huge lesson I learned here was the rental of the large grinder was around $350. I spent $500 on bits.
So there's about $850 I spent grinding half of my basement. For the other half, I decided I would try something. I got this diamond pad from Amazon that was like $70, and this dust shroud, which I can't remember what it was. I think it was around $30. Pair that with some bags for your regular old shop vac, and you're in business for about $100 versus, like I said, around 850. So 400 square feet on one side cost me $850, and about 400 to 800 square feet on the other side cost me about 100. Quite a bit of savings. Yes, it was a pain in the butt. I was on my knees for all of that and bent over, but I'd say the savings was well worth it.
All right, so just washed it all down. There's obviously a bunch of junk, you know, that pooled in spots. I'll just vacuum all this up then, wash it down another time, vacuum it up. I'll just lather, rinse, repeat. It's like a clean product. I think it's turned out awesome though. So I imagine with the water on it, it's kind of how it's going to look. Once we get the stain on it, you know, just change the color. So I'm in love with it. We'll just keep going, and hopefully we'll end up with a good product. So start vacuuming and cleaning and lather, rinse, repeat, like I said. So we're just about ready to lay our first color, which is aspen. It's like a oceany green, maybe a little closer to emerald, but so we're gonna throw it down like a river going into and branching off of some cracks up there. We'll get some video of that after it's laid down, but we're gonna let that sit for 4 hours. Then we're gonna wash it, neutralize it, and then dry it up, and then we're gonna hit it again, that same area with the aspen. And then right after we set that off, we're gonna put the other two colors on, which are walnut and mahogany. So we'll try and make all that work and get it all covered. So we'll show you how it turns out. All right, so this is what it looks like after the second application. We let the first application sit about 8 hours. We put a second application on, and so far all I've done is just wet it down. I haven't neutralized any of this. So it still should be reacting with what's going on here. And I'll just wet it down, and then I'll start laying my other colors. So this blue or aspen color has probably been on here, I don't know, 10 hours, I guess, with the second application, somewhere around the 6 hour range. So yeah, we're gonna lay walnut next, and then I can't remember what the other color is. The other color is, well, walnut's this one, and I'm actually laying mahogany next. This mahogany. All right, so this is an hour and 50 minutes into the second coat, which was, we reapplied this aspen color and then applied walnut and mahogany around it in the adjacent spots. This is so far what it's looking like. It's turned out really good. I'm happy with it anyway. It's got some really cool coloring. But I'm just letting, you know, kind of do its thing. Probably neutralize it here. We're gonna let it run for another, I think, 4 hours before we neutralize it and think about a seal coat later. So this is just applying the third and final coat of color, which I believe is the walnut. So that's going on now. I'm just kind of spritzing it around, tying it into the blue. Time to time, cutting across. And make sure there's all kinds of good coverage. I don't want any real bare spots for sure. Just kind of areas that look a little dry, I'm filling in a little bit with this color. But for the most part, all my colors laid down. I'm just kind of adding to the flavor with this stuff. Kind of filling in. I already filled in with mahogany. This is the color below this is mahogany. So we've got aspen, which is the green color, and then mahogany below this, and this is walnut, meant to, you know, darken some veins. And then the longer we let this sit, supposedly the more intricate the colors get, or more, I guess, defined the colors get. So we'll see what we let this sit. We're gonna probably let it sit for at least an hour or two before I wash it down. And then supposedly when you want the color to stop going off, you put some neutralizer on it. So I guess that's what we'll try, and we'll see how it goes from there. So I washed it down one more time and then soaked up all the water. And this is essentially what we're ending up with here. Looks pretty awesome. I've got one coat of neutralization, or baking soda, I guess, and water over the top of this now. And so I will run that the rest of the way out. I'm just applying that with, after I've cleaned all the water off, the excess water off, I start with the baking soda solution. And just this brush right here. And I'm brushing it on, that way I know, and I know it's doing its job. All right, so first cleaning and second cleaning are, well, second cleaning is half done. It's washed, you need to clean it up. So once that's done, I'm gonna clean again. This stage, and the first stage was water and baking soda. Second stage was a mixture of this product here. I believe I used 50% of what was recommended. I diluted it with water and then spread it around. And now I'm letting it just interact for a little while to neutralize the acids. And then on comes the cleaning a couple more times, and then sealer. And then we'll be on the home stretch. We'll have to paint the walls and finish it up. Okay, according to the directions of the sealant that I'm using, it needs to be applied to a semi-damp surface. So I've got some water here. They recommend using these pump sprayers for disbursement of the material, as well as making the surface damp, but not too wet for when you're applying the sealant. So the roller is to back up and cleanups, etc. So here we go. I'm just going to start with a section and work a section and try and keep working my way out of the room. Okay, so you can see the difference, I guess, kind of in from what I've wet to what I haven't. You know, it looks very dull, and what I have gotten wet. And so here's how it's going on. I mean, I guess you can see it looks like a thin film. I'm spraying it with the pump sprayer and then spreading it out with the 3/4 nap roller. Now I'm nearing towards the end of where I kind of initially sprayed to get it wet, and I can see that this is drying out quite a bit. So before I continue spraying any more sealant, come around here and re-wet this, get this wet for its initial time. I might have to re-wet it again as I go, but it's kind of what I'm assessing. Just, do I need to add some moisture just to get this stuff to spread evenly and like it's meant to? It's looking really good so far, I think. I'm pretty excited about the finished details, so looking forward to that reveal. All right, so this is after the first coat of sealant has been applied. So it's, I don't think anywhere near enough sealant. I'm guessing, I don't know. I think it's at least 2 more coats, probably. We'll see. This is after the 3rd coating. It's pretty much to the stage we want it. There's a couple of small areas that aren't quite, get the lights on here. A couple of small areas that aren't as vibrant color-wise. because I think it needs more of the clear coat, but most of the area has turned out, it's got a nice sheen to it. I guess my wife would just like a little bit more sheen. So one more coat on top and then on the next side. All right, so this is the fourth application. It's looking a lot more glossy, which is what we're looking for. It doesn't used to look dry, like it would soak that up and just be dry. So there's some reflection going on. I think one more coat for sure was gonna make this really pop, and then we'll see if I go for another coat after that. I think one will probably be fine. All right, so here we have, I believe, what we're going to call the finished product. So the blue river kind of extends into the reds. Everything's all sealed up. All right, I've got everything wired. We're gonna paint the walls white just to get them so that the color will pop. And then I'll paint them the color we're gonna make them. And then we'll go through, sand all this down and make it look like this floor in here. It's completely covered with all of our garbage, but it is very nice. All right, acids etching is done. I'm just laying the first seal coat, which should help it pop quite a bit after I get a few coats on it. If you look at the previous picture, you'll see my major screw up here. After washing the floor down and neutralizing it from the acid stains, it was still wet. And so that's when you begin the process of sealing it. But in my case, the floor had dried too much. And I explained this later, but I didn't reapply water. I didn't get it damp enough. So it ended up drying too thick, and it didn't really dry. It took forever to dry, really. And then what wasn't drying looked like this. So what we ended up doing to fix this is, and it didn't completely fix it, it just took most of the problem away. We ended up scrubbing it with a hot water and a stiff bristle brush, which, like I said, took probably 95% of it away, but we still had small areas that were hazier than I'd like, which is disappointing when you go through all that work. So don't make the mistake I made. There was a couple other things like the dehumidifier not working and stuff, but I'll talk about that later. All right, this is after the first coat of clear box, or super diamond clear box, was applied. It looks a little dull. It did the previous time, but I made a fatal error when I laid this down the first time. We actually just got done scrubbing it to try and fix it. The first time I applied it on the other side of the basement, I took a pump sprayer and I laid down a fine mist of water and then I had a pump sprayer to apply the clear box so that it was applied thinly. This time one of my pump sprayers was broken, so I thought, well, I applied it with the pump sprayer, but then I rolled it. I'm like, let me just roll it. Let me see if that should work just fine. Well, what happened was it got really thick in a couple of spots, and it's kind of leaving a haze. You know, it's somewhat dull. I'm not sure. We're gonna see if that goes away, because that is kind of how it looked after I applied the first coat the last time. So I'm gonna try some successive coats, but you can see like spots like here, this right here is a little hazy, and I'm not sure if that's, you know, from the applying it too thick, which is right there. We'll see. I'm hopeful that it kind of goes away when I apply these next few coats. I don't know. We took hot water and went over all the thick spots. I'll include some pictures of what it looked like before we just did that. Just prior to doing that step, and then you can obviously see what it looks like now. So I'll go ahead and apply the coats. I'm going to thin that clear box down a little bit too, also to hopefully alleviate, you know, this happening again. So a little word to the wise. So there's a couple of issues. It was cold. It's cold down here. It's not winter, it's summer, but it's cold in the basement. The dehumidifier was broken, and I didn't apply water prior to. I didn't apply a lot of water. I guess the floor was damp from me washing it just prior, but I didn't apply a lot of water or get the floor moist before I, completely moist, I guess, with the pump sprayer before I applied the clear box, and I used a roller. So could have been any one of those issues that caused the problem, or all of them together could have caused the problem, but we've taken care of the bad spots, and I'm about as pleased as I'm going to get with it. I'm certainly not going to grind it and redo this process again. So wish me luck. And all right, so not treated, and over here to treated. It should be very thin looking, and any pooling, like if you have, for example, right at the end of that tip there's a little bit of a hole or a divot in the concrete. I'm just gonna get that out of there. So you don't want to see any pooling at all, otherwise that'll be too thick. There was some water in this back corner, which caused some puddling, so I'm just gonna try and keep spreading that around so that it's not thick. And that should do it, and then I'll move on. And that should dry clear. Well, here's the finished product. Turned out pretty good. I wish I'd have used a little less of the dark brown, but nonetheless it's done and it looks pretty good. Just got to go around the edges and paint where I got some acid on the walls, and then trim the doors, and we'll be done over here.